And with every decision, you are writing the story of your life. That story doesn't get written in pencil. No ERS, no whiteout. Every choice is written in permanent ink. And whether you realize it or not, each stroke of the pen SHAPES, where you will end up. Tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now. Some people think life is random, like pages being filled with words they didn't write. But the truth is you're the author. Each decision, small or large, writes a line, say yes when you should have said no. And you write a sentence that follows you 4 years. Say no when you should have said yes. And a door closes sometimes. Forever, but choose wisely with discipline. And you're writing a story worth rereading. The interesting thing about DCIONS is that THEY rarely feel permanent. In the moment, think about the little things. What you eat today, whether you read tonight, whether you save $1 or spend it. None of those choices seem dramatic. But when you stack them together, day after day, page after page, suddenly they form chapters. Those chapters become the book of your life. And it all started with simple choices written in ink. Now here's the part many people miss. You don't get to choose whether or not to write. You're always writing. The only question is, are you writing carefully and deliberately? Or carelessly, letting your hand scribble without thought? Because one way or another, those words remain. Life doesn't hand you a fresh notebook. You can start a new page, you can write a new chapter. But you can't erase the old ONES. They stay. That's why DCIONS matters so much. So I want you to think carefully about the choices you're making, about the story you're writing. Are your DCIONS leading you toward a future you'll be proud to read back one day? Or are they leading you down a path of regret, one careless line at a time? Because here's the truth. Your future waiting to be written someday. It's being written right now, in permanent ink with every decision you make. Every decision you make is pointing you somewhere. It's like setting the compass of your life. And here's the thing, you don't arrive where you intend. You arrive where your DCIONS direct you. A lot of people have good INTONS. They intend to get healthier. They intend to get wealthier. They intend to improve their RELATIONSHIPS. But INTONS don't write the story. DCIONS do. INTONS are ideas. DCIONS are ink. I've seen it happen so many times. Someone says, one day I'll start saving money. One day I'll read more. One day I'll take care of my health. But here's the reality, one day never shows up. Only today shows up, and when today comes, your DCIONS decide where you're headed. See, the road to a poor future is paved with great INTONS and bad DCIONS. And the road to a good future is paved with wise DCIONS. Even if they seem small at the time. Think about it this way. If you decide to spend $1 instead of save it, that's not a big deal today. But make that decision every day. And 5 years from now, your story looks entirely different. On the other hand, if you save that $1, invest that $1, let it work for you. That single decision, repeated over and over, writes an entirely new chapter of your life. It's the same with health. You can decide to exercise, or you can decide to put it off. Both DCIONS write something permanent. Skip today, skip tomorrow. Skip enough times and the chapter is written. Your health DCIONS. But choose to walk, to stretch, to care for yourself daily. And in 10 years the story reads very differently. Years ago, I met a man who told me he couldn't figure out why His career wasn't going anywhere. He said he worked hard, showed up on time, kept busy, but as we talked, I noticed something. His DCSONS every day were all reactive. He decided to answer every phone call, handle every interruption, attend every meeting. He never decided to focus on his priorities, to build new skills, to develop himself beyond the minimum. He had good INTNTIONS, he WANTED success. But his DCSIONS wrote a different story. His compass was pointed at busy, not effective, and that compass carried him further and further from where he wanted to be. And here's the point. DCSIONS don't just influence where you go. They determine where you end up. One wrong degree on the compass doesn't look like much at first, but travel far enough and you end up miles, even hundreds of miles off course. Life is the same. It's not one bad decision that ruins you. It's the repetition of small, careless ONES. And it's not one good decision that makes you. It's the repetition of small, wise ONES. So ask yourself, what direction are your DCSONS pointing you in? Right now, if you kept making the same DCSONS you made this week, where would you end up in 5 years? In 10 years, would you be proud of the story written? Or would you wish you had held the pen more carefully? Because here's the truth. Your pen is in your hand, and every decision, big or small, is setting your course. Now, once you see that your DCSIONS define your direction, you begin to realize something even more powerful. Most of the story isn't written in big, dramatic moments. It's written in the tiny daily choices you make, often without thinking. And that's where the real power lies. Most people think their future is determined by big, dramatic choices, like where they'll live, who they'll marry, what career they'll pursue. And yes, those matter. But the truth is your future is mostly written by the small choices you make every single day, the ONES that seem so ordinary, so insignificant that you hardly notice them at all. But in the end, those small choices are the ONES that write entire chapters of your life. Think about health. Skipping the gym one time isn't going to ruin you. EATING, one DONUT isn't going to change much. But do it every day and the story changes. Over time, those little choices add up into a permanent record. The same goes the other way. One workout doesn't make you fit. One salad doesn't change your body. But make those DCSIONS consistently. And in 5 years, you hardly recognize the person you've become. That's the power of small choices. They don't seem to matter in the moment, but over time, they write the permanent story of your life. It's like compound interest. Put a small amount of money aside each day. And at first it seems almost laughable. What difference could a few dollars make? But over months and years, the power of compounding turns something tiny into something substantial. Life works the same way. Your DCSIONS compound. Good ONES, bad ONES. It doesn't matter, they all multiply. They all grow into something bigger than you imagined. I once knew a man who told me he was frustrated that his career had stalled. He said, I work hard every day. I'm busy all the time. But I don't seem to be moving forward. When I asked him to walk me through his daily DCSIONS, it became so obvious he wasn't reading. He wasn't learning new skills. He wasn't building RELATIONSHIPS. He was simply repeating the same day over and over. EXPCTNG, the future to chain. But the truth is, his daily choices were writing the same sentence, again and again. And you can't expect a different chapter if you're COPYNG the same line. That's why you can't dismiss small choices. EVERYTIME, you decide to pick up a book. You're building wisdom. EVERYTIME, you decide to save a little money. You're building security. EVERYTIME, you decide to be kind. You're building stronger, RELATIONSHIPS. And every time you decide not to, you're writing something else. And here's the thing you don't get to skip writing. You're always writing something. The only question is, what are you writing? A story of growth and progress, or a story of neglect and regret? See, failure doesn't show up all at once. Neither does success, THEY, both creep in slowly. Quietly, one decision at a time. Nobody wakes up one morning bankrupt. Nobody wakes up suddenly unhealthy. Nobody wakes up suddenly wise or suddenly wealthy. It's the daily DISCOPLINES, or the daily NEGLECTS, that decide the outcome. That's why I say, your future is being written in permanent ink. Right now, not tomorrow. Not someday, now, with every little choice you make. And once you understand this, it should give you both caution and hope. Caution because careless choices, repeated daily, can ruin the story of your life. Hope because wise CHOICS, repeated daily, can transform it completely. The same law applies to both sides. And that means no matter where you've been, no matter what chapters you've already written, you can start today with better DCSONS. You can't erase the past, but you can start a new page right now. Now here's the natural conclusion. Once you see the power of small CHOICS, you realize that nobody else is holding the pen but you. Which means you can't blame circumstances. You can't blame the economy or your boss or the weather. The choices are yours, the ink is yours, and the story is yours. Which brings us to the next principle: responsibility and ownership. Responsibility is the turning point. Until you take full ownership of your DCSONS, you will always be stuck in the same chapters, rereading the same story. And here's what I learned years ago. Excuses don't erase ink. Once a choice is written, it's written. No amount of BLAMING, the economy, your PARENTS, your boss, or your past changes what's already on the page. The only thing that changes your future chapters is you taking the pen back and deciding differently from this point forward. I've met people who lived half their lives waiting for someone else to rewrite their story. They thought if the government changed, their life would change. If their company changed, their paycheck would change. If their circumstances changed, their future would change. But the truth is, none of that ever really works. Because it's not what happens to you that writes the story. It's what you do about what happens. Life will hand you some SENT and CES you didn't ask for. But the way you continue the paragraph, the way you finish the chapter, that's all on you. Now, taking responsibility doesn't mean CARRYNG guilt. It doesn't mean beating yourself up over the past. Responsibility is about power. When you blame others, you give them the pen. You hand them the power to write your future. But when you accept responsibility, you take the pen back, you say, yes, I wrote those chapters, and now I'm ready to write something different. That's when things begin to change. That's when you stop waiting and start CRETING. I remember a man who came to me after a seminar, frustrated that his life wasn't working out. He said, "Jim, I feel stuck. Nothing seems to go my way. So I asked him a simple question. Who's making your DCSIONS? He looked at me puzzled and said, well, I guess I am. And I told him, if you're the one making the DCSIONS, then you're the one holding the pen. If you don't like the story, stop blaming the paper, start writing something new. That realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He finally understood he wasn't powerless. He was simply careless with his choices. That's the trap so many people fall into. They look for someone to blame. They look for an excuse to justify why things aren't better. But excuses don't pay the bills. Excuses don't get you healthy. Excuses don't bring success. Excuses don't rewrite the chapters. Only responsibility does. Only when you say this is my life. My choices my results. Do you actually gain the power to change anything? And here's the beauty: once you own it, you can change it. You can decide differently, starting today. You can erase the old ink. But you can start a new page. You can write a new chapter. Responsibility means you're not trapped in yesterday's mistakes. You're free to create tomorrow's victories. But it starts with that decision to own it. Not excuse it. To take back the pen and write the story deliberately. So if you find yourself blaming, catch it quickly. If you hear yourself saying, if only the economy, or if only my boss, or if only my family, stop. None of that changes the ink already written. And none of it writes the next line you do. You hold the pen. That's the gift and that's the challenge. Once you've accepted that, the next question becomes, how do I make better DCSIONS going forward? If every choice writes in permanent ink, then you'd better have a way to make sure you're writing wisely. And that's where the next principle comes in. Learning how to make better DCSIONS that align with the future you want, not the frustrations you've been living with. If every decision is permanent ink, then you and I had better learn how to write carefully. You don't want to look back 5 years from now and realize your story got written by impulse, by convenience, or by whatever felt good in the moment. No, you want to know you chose wisely. That means learning how to make better DCSIONS. Here's the first principle. Don't trade what you want most for what you want now. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They sacrifice the future for the present. They choose comfort today at the expense of growth tomorrow. They spend instead of save. They quit instead of persist. They eat what tastes good instead of what fuels them. But here's the truth: every time you make that trade, you're writing in permanent ink. You can't undo it. You can only live with the results. Second principle. Learn to separate urgent from important. Most people spend their lives chasing whatever's urgent. Emails, phone calls, other people's DMs. They think because it's urgent, it must be important, but urgent is loud. Important is quiet. Urgent screams for attention. Important patiently waits. And if you're not careful, you will fill the pages of your life with trivial urgencies, while the truly important things, your health, your family, your personal growth, get left unwritten. Better DCSIONS means saying no to the urgent, so you can say yes to the important. Third principle. Make DCSIONS based on values, not MOODs. MOODs shift like the weather. Some days you feel like it. Some days you don't, but values, those are steady. Those are what hold you to a higher standard. If your values say, I will grow every day, Then even when you don't feel like reading, you read if your values say, I will honor my COMMITS. Then even when you're tired, you show up DCSIONS, ROOTED in values last. DCSIONS made an MOODS fade. I can't tell you how many people I've met who were talented, intelligent, full of potential, but their DCSIONS didn't match their goals. They majored in minor things. They chased DISTORICITIONS, they LIVED in reaction. They let small IMPULSES write their story. And you know what happens. When you major in minor things, you end up with a minor life. Better DCSIONS mean ASKING. Does this choice align with the major things I want my future to hold? If IT doesn't, then don't write it, don't put it in ink. Here's another question to ask before making a decision. If I keep making this choice for the next 5 years, where will it lead me? That question has saved a lot of people from writing regret into their story. Because suddenly, you see the long-term consequences. The little choice that seems harmless today, repeated over time. LEADS2, a destination you may not want. So don't just ask how does this feel today. Ask where does this take me tomorrow. You see better DCSIONS come from better input. If you're reading junk, LISTNNG2 junk, surrounding yourself with junk, guess what? You'll make junk DCSIONS. But if you fill your mind with wisdom, your heart with vision, and your life with the right people, your DCSIONS will rise to a higher level. That's why I always say, stand guard at the door of your mind. Because what you let in eventually shows up in the DCSIONS you write. So if every decision is permanent ink, here's the call: write carefully. Pause before you decide. Ask the right questions. Look long-term, not short-term. Align with values, not moods. Major in the MAJORS, not the minors. And protect your input because it fuels your output. If you practice this daily, your DCSIONS will begin to match the future you truly want. But let me tell you something. Making a good decision once isn't the end of the story. The real challenge is keeping it, protecting it, guarding it against distraction, temptation, and discouragement. Because life will test every choice you make. And that's where the next principle comes in. Protecting the DCSIONS that shape your life. When you make a decision, the moment feels powerful. There's clarity, there's excitement, there's conviction. But here's the truth. Making the decision is only the beginning. The real challenge comes after. Because life has a way of testing every choice you make. Temptation shows up, DISTRACTIONS show up. Discouragement shows up, and if you're not careful, the decision you once wrote so boldly in ink begins to fade, not because the ink disappeared, but because you stopped protecting it. I've seen people commit to saving money, and for a few weeks they do great. Then a shiny new gadget shows up in the store window, and suddenly, their decision doesn't seem so strong anymore. I've seen people decide to get healthy, and for a few days they exercise. They eat well, but then a stressful week comes, and they reach for old habits. The decision itself wasn't the problem. The problem was they didn't build guardrails around it. They didn't protect it. So how do you protect your DCSIONS? First, you build habits to support them. A decision without a habit is just a wish. If you decide to save money, build the habit of setting something aside. Automatically, if you decide to get healthy, build a habit of exercising at the same time every day. Habits are like fences around your choices. They keep diastereocytones and temptations from pulling you off course. Second, create an environment that supports your DCSONS. If you decide to read every day, put the book by your chair, not hidden on a shelf. If you decide to eat better, stock your kitchen with good food, not junk food. Your environment should make the right choice easier and the wrong choice harder. Too many people set themselves up for failure because their environment constantly works against their DCSONS. Third, find accountability. Share your decision with someone who will hold you to it. A friend, a mentor, a partner, someone who will ask, "Are you still sticking with it?" Accountability is like a mirror. It reflects back whether you're staying true to what you wrote. Without it, it's too easy to quietly let DCSONS slip away. With it, you're reminded daily that this choice matters. And here's another principle. Recommit every day. Don't think of a decision as something you make once and forget about. Think of it as something you choose again each morning. You don't decide once to be healthy. You decide every day to act healthy. You don't decide once to grow. You decide every day to learn. DCSONS are permanent in their impact, but they require daily renewal in your behavior. The ink doesn't fade, but your discipline can. So recommit. I once spoke with a man who told me he had decided years ago to build a business. But when I asked what he was doing daily to protect that decision, he admitted nothing. His decision was bold but unprotected. And unprotected DCSONS get washed away by the flood of daily life. It wasn't that he didn't decide. It was that he didn't reinforce the decision with HABITS environment, accountability, and recommitment. So remember this: making the decision is the easy part. Protecting the decision is the hard part. But that's where the real results come from. Anyone can decide to be wealthy. Anyone can decide to be healthy. Anyone can decide to grow. But only those who protect those DCSONS with discipline, habit, and daily action see their story written the way they intended. Protect your DCSONS, guard them like treasure. Build FENCES around them with HABITS. Build an environment that supports them. Surround yourself with people who keep you accountable. And most importantly, recommit every single day to that and the ink you've already written. BCOMES a masterpiece because you protected the words until they became reality. And once you understand how to make wise DCSONS and then protect them, you're ready to see the bigger picture of what your life is becoming. And this is so important because every page, every chapter is being written right now in permanent ink. Every decision you've made up to this point has already been written. The ink is dry, you can't erase it. You can't smudge it, you can't pretend it didn't happen. But here's the good news: you can always turn the page. You can start writing the next chapter today. That's the power you still hold. The past is permanent, but the future is unwritten. And the pen is in your hand right now. These are not just ideas. This stuff will change your life. Remember that DCSONS define direction. Not your hopes, not your dreams. Not your INTNTONS, your DCSONS. If you want a different future, you don't wish for it, you decide for it. Every choice points you like a compass toward the life you're CRATNG. Never forget the power of small CHOICES. Big turning points may grab the HADLNES, but it's the quiet, daily DISCIPLINES that write the real story. Reading a few pages, saving a few dollars. Eating one healthy meal. Speaking one kind word. They compound into something enormous. Success and failure both arrive the same way. One small choice at a time. Accept responsibility. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop waiting for someone else to hand you a new story. Life doesn't hand out rewrites. The day you take ownership is the day you take back the pen. You can't rewrite what's been done, but you can start a new page today. Responsibility is the doorway to freedom. Learn to make better decisions. Don't trade what you want most for what you want now. Don't confuse urgency with importance. Don't let moods outrun values. Protect yourself from majoring in minor things. Ask the right questions. If I keep making this choice for the next 5 years, where will it take me? That's how you begin writing a future worth living. Protect your decisions. Anyone can make a choice in a moment of inspiration. The test comes when life presses against it. That's when habits routines, accountability, and recommitment. Keep your ink bold and your story intact. Protect your choices every day, or they'll be distraction and neglect. So remember, your life is a book and you're the author. Every day you wake up, you write another line. Every week another page, every year another chapter. And someday when the book is finished, you'll have to read it back to yourself. The question is, will you be proud of the story you've written? Or will you wish you had taken the pen more seriously? You can't change what's already written, but you can change what gets written next. That's the gift of today. That's the gift of decisions. So decide wisely, decide intentionally. Decide daily. Because your decisions are writing your future. And they're writing it in permanent ink.